There's a great group of people in this room who have been very supportive of Catherine and I from the time we first dreamed this baby up about 2 years ago. And you know, we've been in business for 18 months now, right? And we're still here, and we're not going anywhere. But we really do want to say that you know, we put this business together, the Bridge Club, with the intention of helping people in the profession come together and bridge a lot of misunderstandings, to help strengthen the profession and to help people really come together to network with each other, to connect and engage and to learn and to grow. And over the past 18 months, we have hosted 60 virtual events. So, many of you have been a part of some of those, and for those of you who have not yet been a part of it, we hope that you will check out our website and come see what we're doing and be a part of it. We've also hosted 10 live events, similar to this one, right? Because we want people to connect over that Zoom platform and see each other's faces, but there's nothing better than connecting in person when you're together as well. So thank you to those of you who have been here part of it. We really have to call out some of the people who believed in us from just when this was a twinkle in our eye. We went to a few people and said, could you help us, maybe? You know, please, do you believe in what we're doing? And so right off the bat, we have to thank our friends at Zoetis, because right away they're like, we're in. We're going to help you get this thing started. Yes. And Oliver is here, back there in the corner, representing Zoetis tonight. Thank you. We also had our friends at Royal Canin. Brent, where are you?
Where's he at? He's in here. There he is.
Yeah.
Thank you, brother.
Brent has been a phenomenal advocate of ours as well, so we can't thank you enough for that. And Animal Policy Group. We all know Mark's going to be up here in a minute, right, Mark? Thank you. I mean, truly, from the bottom of our hearts, we would not be here right now. And I'm going to cry because I always do. If it weren't for all of you guys. So, and I also have to give a little shout out to the advertising agency that gives me my day job too, because Stevens and Associates has helped to contribute to us having some of our live events, and we've really appreciated that as well. So, okay, hold on, give me my phone.
Just
Make sure I'm not forgetting something.
Gotta make sure.
Yes, exactly. So, anyway, we're now going to talk a little bit about what we're doing here this evening for what is our 5th Icon event presentation.
So why are we here? So one of the things that Brenda and I did initially was we started meeting up in small bars with several of our what we call bridgers. So
And we still like to meet in small bars.
We do, we love our small bars. And Saturday night we held up to that standard of a really small bar. And what we found by talking to our members was that they wanted access to industry professionals that had really made a difference. We are fortunate. Brenda and I have been in the profession a very long time, and we have these incredible connections of people that we can pick up the phone and have a conversation with, but many in the profession cannot. And so Brenda dreamed up, and I give her 1,000% credit on this, the Icon event. So this is for a select few people that have really tremendously made a difference in the profession. And for us tonight, I am honored. Well, see, now I'm going to do it. And I never do it.
Wait, let me give you a pink napkin.
Yeah, no, I'm good. I am honored that John Payne is our icon. I am honored in many ways because I actually had my very first animal health business pitch in front of John, of which he simply responded, no. And all these years later, I can honestly say, we pick our icons because of their influence, and John has been a mentor to both Brenda and I. And I don't know if he remembers this or not, but literally 2 years ago, I met him in an airport and said, Brenda and I have this crazy idea. We want to bring the profession together. What do you think? Should we be not-for-profit? Should we do it? Do you think this is going to be crazy? And he said, Catherine, paused, as John can only do. He said, I'm a capitalist, go make money. It is because of John that we are here tonight, and we're very, very fortunate. So yes, John, the true capitalist. But I do have to say that we are extremely fortunate because we had two organizations come forward and help support this tonight. American Humane is one of them, and they are standing in front of us. I want to thank everyone doing that. But more importantly, the proceeds from tonight are all going and being donated to American Humane. So we are blessed. I also want to make sure that we call out Mark Cushing because he and Animal Policy Group are also supporting us this evening. That is the reason both organizations that we do have an open bar.
Yes.
So I'd like to. So we do have, we're going to read a quick statement here because I will say that we had many people. AVMA is one of those conferences people come in and out of, and many other organizations are in their business planning, etc. We were unable to have some special guests from Zoetis here tonight, and they had a special statement that they did want to read on their behalf.
So, if I may, on behalf of Steve Leader and Dr. Michael McFarland, and I really am gonna cry, you guys, so just be prepared, that's all I can say. All right, so the statement from Zoetis is, on behalf of Zoetis, we extend our most sincere congratulations to our good friend John Payne for being named an industry icon by the Bridge Club. Merriam-Webster defines icon as a person who is very successful and admired and a widely known symbol. We can think of no one in our industry who no better meets these definitions and more deserving of this honor. Our professional relationship with John began when he became CEO of Banfield. During his tenure, he led many major initiatives that improved technology and boosted the impact on veterinary medicine for a lifetime. It is with our greatest appreciation we would like to thank John Payne for his contributions to the profession and to congratulate him on this honor. So, thank you.
We can raise a glass to that. I do think we should just a quick cheers.
This is not the official toast.
That is not the official toast. You will find at the Bridge Club we cheers a lot.
Yeah, we toast a lot.
We really love our toast. So normally, when we do this, we like our fireside chats, is the notion that Brenda or I are the ones that do the question and answer section. And by the way, guys, this will be an opportunity for you to actually ask John questions as well. But it dawned on us that one of the greatest opportunities we have is that Mark and John have known each other a very, very long time. And it would be our great honor to have Mark be the one to pose the questions to John. So breaking with tradition, which we do a lot of, we love to break our own traditions of 2 years.
Big rules, big rules.
Mark will be doing the actual piece, but what we are going to do this evening is, Brenda and I also are not going to be doing the toast. We are going to be asking our esteemed guests to do so. So I would like to introduce and have him do the toast, so get ready for your glass here in a moment. Mr. John Payne, who is the CEO, President, and Chairman of the Board for Compassion First Pet Hospitals. He has made such a mark on this profession, and through the conversation, for those of you who don't know his past, we're going to talk a little bit more about that. It is an illustrious career, and I am honored. He is an entrepreneur, he is an innovator, and he is a leader. Ladies and gentlemen, John Payne.
So, thank you for all coming tonight. It's wonderful. The turnout's amazing. What Catherine and Brenda are doing is terrific, and I do remember very well the conversation. So I'd like to propose a toast to our great profession and our great industry. It's done remarkable things for pets and their families, and we still have a lot of work to do. So here's to our profession and our industry. Cheers.
It's all mine?
And the fun now begins.
Okay. John, I wanted you to know at the start that I wouldn't have rolled out the Versace for just anybody. And actually, it's for Nancy. So Nancy, great to see you. Since I left Portland, I haven't seen you as often, but it's great to see you. So we ought to get started where it started. And I would bet 2 people in the room know how John got in this extraordinary profession. So why don't you tell them?
Well, it's funny. So I wanted to be a equine veterinarian. I grew up in Philadelphia. And so you had to apply back in the 60s, late 60s.
That's 66.
Late 60s, you had to apply to the school that in the state you lived in, and if it had a veterinary school. So I applied to the University of Pennsylvania, and of course, didn't get in. So, which is pretty typical back then. So I went and taught high school biology and chemistry, and they said, well, we'd like you to teach modern math. And I said, well, I don't know what you're talking about. Well, here's the book, So I taught, I think, junior high school, 7th grade kids, modern math. So that was interesting. So I love teaching. And so I thought, well, that's a good profession, to hold us over until, I can get into school or do something else. And so, of course, right at the beginning, my wife gets pregnant. This is 1970. Okay, my daughter's here to prove it. And I remember going chaperoning the sock hops and everything back then, and Christine really liked it because she was thumping her mother the whole night. So Nancy's brother was in the sales business selling telephone systems, and he called on a company out in Kansas City called Gencel, and he said, and they were looking for people to represent the company. And so he said, you ought to talk to my brother-in-law. So they gave me a call, and we had an interview, and they were going to hire me. And then all of a sudden, I got a call and said, well, we're not going to fill the position this year. So went back to teaching and went back to waiting to get into school. Well, long story short, the next year the guy calls and says, and by the way, I got approved to go to school. The guy calls and said, listen, we're going to fill that position. I know you probably hate me and probably don't want to talk to me, but if you want the job, you can have it. And so, of course, I had a new child, and we didn't make very much money teaching school back then. So I took the job because it was like double the revenue, or double my salary compared to teaching school. So rather than go further in the hole, I decided to do the next best thing. And so I took the job and I called on veterinarians. And it was, and I was pretty good at it, and did very well, and kind of went through all the different jobs that are in the industry. So I was a field sales trainer, and I was a sales trainer, national sales trainer, and then sales manager and regional sales manager. And long story short, I owned, we bought Diamond Scientific, Diamond Laboratories way back when, and developed some really cool stuff like the first TG vaccine in the world. We also developed the first bovine syncytial virus vaccine, for cattle. So there was a lot of innovations, and I remember when we were presenting the company, we were going to sell it to Bayer, and our head of research, I don't know, he got sick, and he lived in California, so he couldn't make it. And so I had to present the whole research portfolio. So I was head of research for one day. It's pretty cool. I like that. So Bayer bought us, or back then it was Miles Laboratories, and eventually became Bayer. Again, long story short, I became the president and general manager of Bayer North America, and eventually actually became head of global research because we did a lot of research. I didn't do it, but people did it in Kansas City. So, the interesting, couple of interesting things along the way. So, you make acquaintances and you see, people that influence your life. And I saw all of the icons of the industry, as far as I was concerned, at the Animal Health Institute. And Jim DeCesar, who headed up that, was chairman of that, and I said, that'd be pretty cool to do. These guys are making a difference. And so I decided, listen, I think I have some talent, and I think that at some point I'd like to run one of these animal health companies. So it came true. Back in, again, the late 90s, I took over as the head of North America. But in the meantime, I met another gentleman, Dr. Scott Campbell. And Dr. Campbell, who, people love him, people hate him, but Scott is a really very intelligent and talented individual and a real thinker. And so I got involved in marketing with him, and really he and I kind of worked out what the flea and tick industry was going to look like in the 90s and the 2000s, and really what it looks like today. So, we started out lecturing around the country, and Scott would do it, and Marty Becker would do it, another person, who's now pioneering fear-free and doing, wonderful work. But we had a program talking about how certain products that we had were better than the poisons that were being administered, throughout the country, and it was all an OTC world in controlling flea and ticks, and they were all organophosphates, and they were all very dangerous and actually killed a lot of pets. And so we started out on a mission, I remember the name of the lectures. They were called Ham and Eggs, and it was basically telling the profession, stop letting the OTC market, eat your breakfast, not your lunch, eat your breakfast. So we would serve ham and eggs at these lectures, and we would pass out compendiums of pharmaceutical products, that big thick book, and we'd even have $50 bills in those books, because we said, if what would you pay someone to come to this lecture, to get our message out? And so that was pretty. You can imagine walking around with a briefcase full of $50 bills. That's what it was. So we did that all around the country, and eventually, came up with Advantage Flea Control, and the rest is history. It's, it was the first billion-dollar product in companion animal, and then Advantix, and that became a billion-dollar product around the world. And both of those products were launched in the United States, which is something that Bayer had never done ever before. Always products were launched in Europe first, and then in the United States, and it was just the reverse. So these were products they weren't going to develop, but that's a long story. So,
I'll ask you another question.
yeah.
Yes.
First of all, I did not realize my first job after college was teaching in high school. I was asked to teach medieval and Renaissance history, a little bit different than math. To which this room won't be surprised. They said, I know a little bit about Machiavelli. Anyway, for some other time. But no one has had the executive jobs in the industry you've had. The president of Bayer North America, CEO of Banfield Pet Hospitals from 2007 to 2012, and then creating Compassion First, and ultimately being funded by JAB Holdings. So who had an impact on you along the way that you'd like to share with the group?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, it was like the icons of the industry, the leaders of the Animal Health Institute. These were guys that were at the biggest pharmaceutical companies, the Pfizer's, when it was Pfizer, the Fort Dodges, which all of these have changed. The Upjohn Company, which is now Elanco. So there was all kinds of different people that were doing, fantastic things. And I mentioned Jim DeCesar, who headed up one of these large companies and was also the head of the Animal Health Institute. Well, when I became, president at Bayer, I was on the executive board at Animal Health Institute, and I was one of the few people that served 2 terms there, leading, the industry charge and, interacting with FDA and doing some of the great things that were done, such as all of the invoices of all of the companies. Everyone, in the United States has a unique number that's associated with themselves, and everyone follows that system. They were called HIPIC numbers at the time. I think some of the distributors that are here probably know about that. But that was a major breakthrough in making sure that you got billed correctly and you got your products on time and accurate and accurately in terms of you ordered six of something, you got 6 of something.
I'm going to make you work now. We're going to look out in the future. So you're associated now, obviously, with Compassion First, and there's been, as we all know, an explosion of Wall Street and financial interest in this sector, which is obviously a very strong statement. And I think the count, someone said, is 55 current kind of corporate groups, and you've got one of the most successful. If you look out 10 years, do you think it will still be possible for a vet school graduate to start a practice, to create a business, or will the choices be company X, Y, or Z, or from A to Z?
No, I think there's always possibilities. And I think a new graduate that is passionate about owning a practice ought to be given the opportunity to own a practice. And there's people out there that will back these practices and help new graduates, but you got to be passionate about it, and you have to understand more than just the medicine of veterinary medicine. So you need to know the business of it, and this is one of the things I stopped over at LMU's alumni reception, and as you know, they've just graduated their second class. And one of the doctors was sitting there, and she's a very energetic doctor, sees about 30 patients a day. And she said, "I like to own my own practice. How do I go about that?" And I said, "Well, the first thing you need is a mentor. You need somebody that can help you and guide you. You have the passion for it. You just don't have," she realized she didn't have the tools to do it. And so I'm gonna help her. Yeah.
So let's open it to the audience, and if you don't have questions, I've got a few more, but I'd rather.
Mark, you always have questions.
I want to go back to that math class you taught us. I missed some of that. So anyone have a question, raise your hand and I'll call on you, or just shout them out if you'd like. And you might introduce yourself when you ask the question, please. Ralph, you have questions, don't you? I know you do.
Well, sure. What I'm thinking about is, kind of what your current position, aside from your day job, is supporting and serving American Humane. What has led you there, and what's your experience there at American Humane?
So I've been impacted, my whole life with servant leadership. I think that's really important. It's important to give back. If I turn over to my wife to my left, she would say, "Why don't you give me you back?" Because I'm always, going someplace or doing something for other people. But I think it's important. I've gotten a lot out of this profession and this industry, and it's important to give back. And look, we're in the business to serve pets and their families. We should never lose sight of that, never forget that. That's our ultimate mission, is to serve those pets who, give us unconditional love, and to serve those families who, they love those pets just like their children. That's an awesome responsibility. And anything we can do, at American Humane that makes their lives better or relieves suffering that's caused by disasters or whatever it may be. I mean, I don't know if all of you really understand what American Humane actually does, but it has so many missions. Rescue. Yes, we rescue from disasters, but we also rescue pets from terrible situations. We protect all the animals on the movie sets, in Hollywood. Yeah, so no animals are harmed. You see that at the end. We certify zoos and aquariums. Make sure that these animals are humanely treated. Same thing with farm animals. How many millions of animals are under our care right now? I mean, it's maybe close to 1 billion. Close to 1 billion animals are under our care. So we certify these farm animals. So we have a big farm animal program. Military working dogs. We instituted legislation to get all of these animals, these dogs that have saved the lives of our soldiers, and in the past they were just left behind as equipment. Well, that's no longer allowed. thanks to American Humane. So those animals are now transported to the United States. And one step further, those animals are then reunited with their handlers. And you can't believe the countless number of lives that are saved as a result of these unions again. And we're in the business now of breeding and training service dogs to give to soldiers that are suffering from, the stress of war. And we're going to save more lives. So that's why I do it.
Thank you. The only thing, I've known John since about 2005 in the microchipping where I met Ralph and lots of you back in those days. The only thing I know you failed at, and I mean like massively failed, headline, neon lights, arrows pointing, is retirement. Okay, you just completely, any notion that John is or going to retire, despite golf club memberships and cars to drive. So I'm not going to ask you about your plans here because I wouldn't believe your answer because you love work too much.
That's right.
Surely there's another question out here.
Okay.
Over there. Oh, there you go, please.
My name's Karen Corsall, and John Payne, I'd like to know, do you have any pets of your own?
Of course. We have Maggie, a Yorkie Poo, who is, I would say it's my wife's pet. I gave it to her for our 50th wedding anniversary. So, and I'll tell you, my wife and I, we met each other, and we knew we were going to get married, and so we met in February, and we were married in July, and so we just celebrated our 51st wedding anniversary. I can tell you I couldn't have done any of this without Nancy, and so I love you very much, Nancy.
John, I have a question. Well, first of all, I didn't know that you were a teacher, and so I'm so excited to know that because you've been teaching all of us for a long time in this industry. And Mark just alluded to the fact that every time you hit a pinnacle, like at Bear, and we thought, oh my gosh, he did so much, that you one-upped us the next time. And then you went to, and every time you one-upped it, you keep going. And so I would like to know for all of us, what is the advice that you give to each of us? How do we keep making the next chapter better than the one before?
Yeah. So I think we're put on earth for a purpose, and that purpose is to do good and to help people. In our profession, I mentioned, it's our obligation to help pets and their families. And so I don't think that ever ends. When I was leaving Banfield and Mars, I was thinking about, well, what else has to be done? What else needs to be done? And what else can I do to help that along? And so that's why I started Compassion First. The name is, it took a long time to develop and discover. It was all done with focus groups around the country. It was very purposeful. And what we are doing is we're constantly challenging all of our specialists and our emergency staff to step it up, to take the standard of care and make it better. Why? because we get better outcomes as a result. And look, all of the families that own these pets rely on us to do that. And so I said, well, if I could bring together the best hospitals in the country and we could start collaborating with each other instead of acting as competitors, if we could start to address people as colleagues instead of, well, you know, we compete against them, and we don't. We could really make a difference, and so, you know, our purpose is to become Mayo Clinic-like in our practice. We want to become the Mayo Clinic of veterinary medicine. Now that's really, you know, shooting for the stars, right? But we can do it. It may not be done in my lifetime, but this organization that we put together and the talented people that are in this room that are part of Compassion First, they will do it. And so that's what we could all strive for. Because again, you know, we all love our pets. I'm sure that there isn't a single person in this room that doesn't have a pet and understands what I'm talking about. Look at how Fear Free has just taken off. You know, I heard today that there's some veterinary schools that won't take an application from a student unless they're certified Fear Free. That's big. That's a big change. And so these are the things that we can do, because, you know, I can tell you, pets don't want to be scared to death coming into a veterinary hospital, and we should do everything in our power to change that.
Carrie Marcia, you get the last question.
Last question, Carrie.
Have to ask this. You have been so instrumental in building the future. And I met you in Bear, when you were in Bear, and in Banfield I worked with you, and you were very supportive of technology, but also as it fits into the organization and the profession. Tell me, what are you looking at in the future now for us as we're all bravely going forward, trying to shape the future, but in the right way?
Well, some people in this room will understand digital workplace. So I'm very passionate about that. I think we need to digitalize our practices. You know, going forward, I think we need to be able to communicate more succinctly and more frequently with our clients and with our RDVMs from our business standpoint, because that's our client, along with the pets that they entrust us with. So I think that technology jump has to happen. I remember working with Carrie, and Carrie's a veterinarian, and Scott put her in the IT world, and she was developing our software system for us, Petware. And at the same time, you know, we launched the first CRM in veterinary medicine. Well, you don't do that, but we were able to do it because we had really dedicated, talented, and you know, emotional people about what they were doing.
And a
so,
good leader.
Yeah, well, yes, I wanted to push people to that, because you know, at the end of the day, it's just like our practice. You know, well, why do you buy all these practices? Why are you getting bigger and bigger and bigger? so we can offer our brand of medicine to more pets and more families. That's exactly why we do it. It isn't because we're lining our pockets with money. You know, there's only so much money you can spend, right? Or throw away or whatever. So it's not the money. It's our passion is for pets and family, and we want to provide it to people all over the world. So, you know, they said, well, you have 44 practices. What the hell are you doing in Australia buying practices? Well, exactly why. Australia needs our brand of medicine. And yeah, so we're going to be, you know, we're going to drive everyone crazy, of course, but that's why we do it. So if you had that question, why do you keep doing what you're doing? That's why. Because we care about our pets, and we care about the families that care for those pets.
How about a round of applause for John?
One last thing before we do the final toast, in that if you really appreciate what we are trying to do here, we
This
have
is our PBS moment.
This is our PBS moment
Gotta
because we would love to continue to do this for the profession. So please, if you have any interest, come talk to us. If you have a topic that you think that the profession should be discussing, please come talk to us. But other than that, the one thing about the Bridge Club is we keep things short and sweet. So now is the time we're gonna do our final toast. And then here's your opportunity to really talk to John on a one-on-one level. If you've not yet
Because
met
the
him.
bar is still open.
It is still open. So please, if you've not met John, introduce yourself. If you don't know Mark, introduce yourself. This is your opportunity to really get insight from tremendous individuals. So we turn it over to you.
Yes.
So I've done this before in my life. Glasses up, please. John, thanks. Thanks so much for all you've done and you're going to keep doing. Cheers.
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 Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. The bar is still open. Staff and staff, please make yourselves comfortable.